I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be a really nice conversation, much less answer my questions, tell me about this. But I think to really kind of get to know Steve and Riccardo and their approach to everything and where My Neighbor Alice is going, not only as a game, but kind of within the blockchain industry as well. So I'm pretty excited for this. I think it's going to be a great insight into the game and its future, but also a bit of an education in blockchain is my sense, at least. So no pressure, guys. But yeah.
Yeah, same for me. And quick shout out if you're in Paris, both Riccardo and me and Antonio actually. We're in Paris, so if you want to meet up, let us know. Happy to talk to you.
And why are you in Paris? Please tell us why, because it's not just for a vacation. You're there
Yeah,
for
that's true.
business.
We're at NFT Paris and all these side events, and we're actually also co-hosting an event on Friday. So if you want to join, let us know.
Yeah.
And Riccardo speaking, aren't you, with some very impressive guests alongside you?
Yeah, we are speaking with some people from OMA3, which is the Open Metaverse Alliance for Web3, which with Alice we are in the board, and there is Animoca, there is a Sandbox. We have other friends that are passing by, and we have anyway. There is on the Twitter. There is of Alice also on our Twitter. There is all the info. You can register, and if you're listening to this, maybe just say that Bjorn is inviting you, so you fast forward of the waiting list.
Awesome, guys. Let's get started then with this. So if anyone's in Paris, please say bonjour to the guys. So like I said, this is going to be a bit more of a conversation to find out more about My Neighbor Alice, the philosophy of it, where it's going as a game, and how I think it fits into kind of the broader space and purpose of blockchain as well. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. We have two guests who you're probably quite familiar with at this point. We have Riccardo Sibani, who is the Chief Product Officer, and we have Steve. I'm going to mess up your name, Steve. I'm so sorry. I've never tried to say it out loud. Haßenpflug, who is the game director.
Pretty good.
Thank you, Danke. And we're going to be finding out all about what's going on, particularly in marking My Neighbor Alice's transition from the alpha stage to the beta stage. So we'll find out what that means in general, what that means for the game. We're going to talk quite a bit about decentralization and why this matters, I think. Like most people get into crypto because they have these values and they don't like the idea of something being all in one person's control. And I think My Neighbor Alice really exemplifies that from the ground up. So we're going to be talking about decentralization and what that means as well in terms of the features, and I think giving more control and creativity to you guys, the gamers. And then we're going to talk a little bit about user-generated content, which I suppose fits into decentralization in terms of giving people the tools to make the game their own. And then at the end, if you guys have any questions, you can leave them as comments during this, or if anybody wants to come up and ask a question in person, I think we can make that happen too. So yeah, guys, do you want to give a brief introduction to yourselves, or you feel like you recognize enough names that are listening and people know you? Maybe just 30 seconds who you are for anybody who's completely new to the Aliceverse.
Yeah, I see a lot of faces actually, and thank you all for being with Alice and with us. In this adventure that we are doing into making the first fully decentralized game. I'm Riccardo. I think that I've been here for quite a while, and I'm the CPO, and we want really to create the first MMO decentralized game. I have experience in many other blockchain applications. I come from the blockchain world. I think I started 8 years ago when Ethereum started in that period. And in that period, I actually met with Cromaway, that is a company that bootstrapped My Neighbor Alice, worked with them for very long, work on the core of the blockchain not by using it, but actually making all the tools that now are used in all the Cromaway ecosystem, in the Chrome ecosystem. And then we wanted to actually use these tools and this technology that we made, which is Chromia, in a larger scale. And that's why we made My Neighbor Alice. And I think the nice thing of My Neighbor Alice and what we want to make is to really use My Neighbor Alice as the example, the pinnacle of what decentralization is, what blockchain promises are, and actually fulfill all the commitment that we've been hearing in the last many years.
Yeah, very nice. So I've not been at ChromaWay for as long as Riccardo has been. So I've joined ChromaWay, I would say about a year ago. My background is purely gaming, so I've been in the games industry for 12 years. I've dabbled in tech and blockchain since 2013. Been invested quite a bit into crypto in general. Also built a few smaller Web3 games for NFT projects with Ethereum and Unity. Wrote some gaming-related smart contracts and Solidity and these kind of things. And so speaking from a games background, I'm totally stoked about the tech behind Chromia. And when Riccardo pitched it to me back in the days, along with M&A, I was super excited to join. And yeah, built this fully decentralized game with the team.
Awesome, thank you guys. So let's get into it. Speaking of the transition from alpha season 4 to, I suppose, the beta season 1, what does that mean, and why is it significant that we're moving from one letter to the other? What is the significance of this?
Maybe Steve can start with more material thing, and then we can maybe I can add a bit on the strategic idea behind it. But I think Steve is the right person to start the conversation on this. So
yeah, sure, I'll take it. So the thing is, we had lots of discussions about what these seasons actually mean. And for us, I think the most important thing, first of all, to get across is that we are trying to build, obviously, a very successful product, right? So the phases, they determine a bit like where you are in a project, but it's important to remember that every project kind of defines these phases differently. So what we set out to do, we just concluded alpha season, of course. We just entered beta season. And with this, the road to decentralization begins for us. And for us, this means I think we have figured out the nucleus of what the game should be, but it's not fully there yet. So we want to work towards how you would say, at least in the games and tech industry, an MVP, right? So minimum viable product of the game that we show off, and beta season is exactly the path towards that. So there's a few features that are coming up, which is super exciting that we want to talk about in this call too. But Riccardo, please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, tagging along, really, the thing that, besides the meaning of the season, which is something that the community seems to really have grow attached with, it's the fact that we wanted to now change pace in our focus and change our focus. So until now was about making a game working, making a game features. It was very game focused. We wanted to make something that was payable, where people could spend time. And I think that the average play session is around 26 minutes at the moment, which is in the Web3, definitely very, I would say we are ahead of any project that I know of. And in general, is a very good session, 26 minutes. So I think that in that side, the game is at a state that is concrete, it's been delivered, it's there. But then what we have to ask is what's next? I mean, what is that we have to do? We have to decentralize this. So we have to, one, give power to the players, which is our mission, creating UGC tools and basically allow players to create, which is a great thing that we learn during this season. And two, most important, we have to be ready to go live on Chromia once Chromia release on mainnet. And there are many integrity, small things that needs to be fixed, developed, and be guaranteed. Economy, sort of part of bridging tokens around between different Chromia chains and stuff that we need to take care of. So essentially, we want to change the focus from making the game to make it a decentralized game now.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point that you've mentioned, because I think everyone is trying to build a game, right? And I see many, I would say, Web3 projects that are trying to build games, and they do it in various fashions, right? And I think all of them are valid. So for example, I see there's Web3 enabled games where a lot of the logic that you have is off-chain. And then you have hybrid games where some of these things are on-chain, but we want to be fully on-chain, right? So this means it's a huge set of challenges. And it's what I think brings the space really forward. Because only if you have all the data, all the metadata, all the game logic, all the assets fully on-chain, only then can be the dream of Web3 be a reality, in my experience.
Yeah, decentralization is a binary concept. Either you have it, either you don't have it. You cannot have like, oh, it's 50% decentralized. Then it's centralized, right? The decentralization is about the weakest link, and that was, for example, the great thing of Bitcoin, that was proposing a solution that was working on in its entirety, and then it developed all this world of which we are part of. So we really need to make sure that every component is ready to be fully decentralized.
Yeah, and I think
guys, if we take a... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, one more thing. I think you could see parts of this in Alpha Season 4, right? So we had tons of players already. We had this great landscaping contest that we launched. We had over 1.5 million transactions on Chromia, which is kind of crazy to us. So all of this runs really stable, all on Chromia. So we're very proud of how Alpha Season 4 concluded. And with this, I think we're kind of going with a bang into the beta phase and beta Season 1 now.
That's actually the most beautiful segue, because I wanted to ask you, what are your reflections on the previous stage? Were there any highlights? Were there any lowlights? Anything maybe that went better than you imagined it would? How was it from you guys' perspective?
Yeah, definitely. I think we were talking before with Steve, the feature that we are most impressed is landscaping. And that's something that we were really, really amazed by the creation of the community. And I don't know. I think in this call, there are some of the people that participated in the contest. I want to say that actually I show it to other projects, to other people in the industry, and they were really amazed by the quality of the content created by our community, by the landscape that was created by our community. So that is a great thing to share, and thank you everybody who had fun doing this. And then, of course, there are things that we will do better, that we want to do better, like adding trading or having a better way to crafting items. And yeah, maybe on this, Steve, you can share something, because something is cooking, and I don't know how much you want to share, but that's what we're working on.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I also have to say landscaping for me was the biggest kind of, I wouldn't say surprise, because you kind of expect, everyone knows user-generated content is super big, but we just set out a very limited tool set for landscaping, right? It's not like that these landscaping tools are super polished or anything, and what the community already has created with, I wouldn't have imagined, really honestly. And there was so many different kind of landscaping ideas that come to fruition. So very natural kind of landscapes, and we have super creative ones where one of our community members has built like ships with the landscaping tool. So super creative stuff, which I wouldn't have imagined, and obviously want to improve on those tools in the future too. And I remember one discussion I had with Victor, who's also in the call, our tech director. We talked about the resources that we have in game and how the tools work and these kind of things. So I really think we're doing pioneering work in a sense, because I come obviously from a gaming background. So translating game mechanics into a fully on-chain environment is really not an easy task. And there were many discussions that we had, and we had to find really clever solutions to make it work the way it works right now, which is quite seamless to me. So you just use a tool, you mine some stuff, and it's all just transactions that happen in the background, right? So to me, I'm super proud of Alpha Season 4 on what we achieved there. And when it comes to new features that we could do better, obviously trading is a really big thing of blockchain technology in general. So kind of having an open economy and people that can trade. And it's some of the, I would say, flagship features that we want to do for beta Season 1 that we're working on right now. So what we want to do is that players can actually trade these resources that you could already mine in Alpha Season 4. And they can set up I would say, stalls where they can then sell these items, and then you can visit other your neighbors and other players. You can go there and you can exchange resources for currency. So in this case, probably Björn, probably Alice. We have to still figure out the details here, but this will be super exciting because it deepens the social elements of the whole game. But yeah, super excited to talk about it more.
Yeah, that's actually is a bit the challenge that there are in across many Web3 games, is that there is this notion of having free market, everything free, everybody can trade, which is the promise that is carried against a traditional game. You know, a traditional game, you can get your assets, you cannot sell them, you can be prevented, you can be censored, and stuff like that. But actually, these are fundamental problems. They're difficult challenges that when you actually implement them, aiming at having no control over it, so giving it all to the community, is actually complex, and that's what we are doing. These are the challenges that we're facing. So, for example, trading, we want to do it in a very, I mean, of course, it will be fully decentralized, governed by smart contract, etc., etc. But at the same time, we want to give something that enhances the value to the players, and not that just becomes a mere tool of trading like in a marketplace where people don't have to play. And I think on this we have good ideas. For example, having incentives for being in the same metaverse location, physical location in the metaverse, and stuff like that. And I think these are new concepts that we are introducing, and that we will introduce, that actually will be a unicorn, will be like a prime example of this working in a Web3 game, and there are some examples in other traditional game, but we're gonna make it decentralized.
Yeah, one more note I want to bring forward is also how it relates on to the beta phase that we have now and how we see this whole phase. Is, I mean, we've established 3 major pillars for M&A, which is, the first one is bring blockchain to the masses. Second one is power to the players. And the third one is social, sustainable, and evergreen. And the third one is actually quite important, and why we take it with the, I would say, pace that we're doing it, right? Because we could go faster, we could release quicker, and all these kind of things. But I think the community and everyone who's invested and everyone who's really, rooting for My Neighbor Alice, they want to see My Neighbor Alice still being an active game that's actively played, and let's 10 years from now, maybe 20 years from now, maybe the core development team has already moved on and we have transitioned the game to a completely new development cycle. But the thing is, we want to build systems that right now can stand the test of time, and to really build great systems in this way, this just requires hard work and time.
Awesome. And I want to really get into decentralization and why it's important, but in a moment. Before we get there, would you have any kind of numbers you can share with us from how the alpha season has gone? I know that there were quite a lot of transactions because I've been monitoring that from Chromia side. Is there any insight you can give us in this sense into the numbers and stuff like that from the game?
Yeah, I think Steve mentioned 1.8 million transactions. We have released 4,000 lands for free trials, plus the more or less same amount of lands that they are already been sold. So I think that the nice part is that every person that played was onboarded in Web3. I think these are really big. I mean, I know that these are very big numbers. There was a report today released where they were showing that the most performing Ethereum game has around 400 players per day, which doesn't mean that they don't exist don't exist games that use Ethereum technology that have more players. But these players, the majority, the 98 to 99% of these players, they don't make a blockchain transaction in a week. Only 400 do in the most performing game. We are way above these numbers. I think that we are close to that number on a daily basis, not on a week basis. And that that these are the most impressive number that I feel to share is the amount of players that do things on chain and the quantity of transactions that are done. Additionally, something that is very interesting is the crafting that actually allows you to create NFTs. And I'm trying to pull the number here because I don't really remember it. Yeah, we were around the 15,000 item crafted, and the fact that every single item in the game, every tree, every t-shirt, every shoes, every tool that you use is actually recorded on the blockchain, and most of them are NFTs, so they can be traded and everything.
Awesome.
Yeah,
so this means people. Oh, sorry, Steve. I was just going to say. So this means people are really playing the game. They're not just signing up for it. They're properly playing it and enjoying it.
Yeah, and the interesting part is that we have an explorer on Chromia where you can actually see all these transactions popping in every few seconds, and this is public.
Yeah, and I think the crucial point that you've mentioned, because you really need to compare our game to other fully decentralized games, right? Or other fully on-chain games, put it like this.
I don't think there's anyone else, Steve. I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm not sure if there is another fully decentralized on-chain game.
If you have one, let me know, but that's what we need to be compared to. That's what I'm trying to say, right? You can't compare apples to pears, because if you have other games that are decentralized but have what I would like to call our Web3 enabled, which allow you to maybe trade NFTs on the side and maybe there's some connections to NFTs, that's great, but that's not the technology we're building, right? And that's a very important distinction.
Yeah, I hear a lot about easy onboarding of users and the fact that they don't have to see the blockchain. But actually what I see is a lot of Web2 game where at some point you can buy one NFT, and we call that Web3 onboarding. I think we have a different idea. To us, Web3 onboarding is bringing a player playing a game that is on chain. And I was checking with other projects on how to give our tech to others, because the way that our onboarding became from being one of the most complex, because we're using a lot of chains. We were using Ethereum, BNB, Chromia, then we were using testnet Chromias, then we had a lot of sign-ins. We had the game that was on the desktop, so you have to connect the browser to the desktop, and it was very complex. And now, I mean, I talk with other projects, I see how they do it, I use their other projects. I don't want to mention name, but we are super slim now, and I think this is a big improvement at all the tech and the development and the designers. It's really every day's job that is put into making things one step better, a little bit easier, saving one click to the users. And now I think it's super easy to be on board. It's frictionless. I was displaying Alice at an event, and I was just logging in on all different computers, and it took me 10 minutes. It was more complex to register to the Wi-Fi in that particular event, actually.
And
I want to simpler than Wi-Fi.
I want to add to this because obviously I come from games again, and also have worked on quite a few free-to-play games, and the frictionless onboarding is one of the most important things. And obviously, again, you can't really compare the current state of Web3 in general to those games. But I think the challenge that we have at the Web3 space in general is this great analogy as if you want to convince someone to use email technology, and you have to imagine someone has never heard about email, right? And why do you need to email? Because you want to play a game or you want to access a certain app. And I think that's kind of the difficulty that the Web3 space is in. They kind of need to convince people of technologies they've never heard of, which we believe will be ubiquitous in a few years, where everyone will use these technologies, right? But to people that are not in the space, they still feel alien, and that's why there's still a lot of friction. But if you're a crypto native, I think the onboarding is super frictionless. I agree. Yeah.
Awesome. And guys, moving towards the roadmap and decentralization, would you share a bit more about this? What is this shift towards full decentralization? And why is it important, and why will players benefit from it? Why is it good for players that it's decentralized, rather than, just like you said, having a few NFTs on chain and calling itself Web3 gaming? Where are we going, and why does it matter?
Yeah, this is a super, super interesting question, and is what is very difficult, not difficult to answer, but it's difficult to prove the point now. But I think it's very easy to prove the point in a few years. And it's the same with the cryptocurrencies, with Bitcoin, with Ethereum. I mean, the first when Satoshi Nakamoto made Bitcoin, he was the only one using it, and people were like, "Okay, you made your own currency, congratulations." But 12 years after, we see the results of this, and I mean, it's a $1 trillion token, and it's a bit the same. It's called the network effect, and what we have to do is to prove that this works, and then start bringing other game or other creators or other partners that can build on top of our technology. The important thing is to have the strongest technology and the most accessible technology, and we are strong that we have this, not because we are I think that we are great and we work very hard on this, but because there is no one else taking this problem, because it's a very complex problem, and taking very complex problem is something that usually gaming companies don't do, because gaming companies do games and blockchain companies do blockchain. So there is a clear empty hole here on how to make something decentralized. That's what we are taking care of. After this, once we have this core, we can actually really enable interoperability. We can, since everything is on chain, everything is transparent, anybody can call our function, everybody can call our operations because they're transparent on the blockchain, and then they can interact in a world that is truly interoperable. An NFT can be used on Alice, can be used in another game, can be used in another game again, or can be sold in a marketplace on the browser. This is something that people want and people like. We can see this working on Ethereum, but Ethereum is missing the logical part. Ethereum only gives the representation of the NFT. You have the image, but the image is static. The image is there, it doesn't change. How can we make this image change? If you play a game, the level change, your expertise change, you change the skin. How do you record all of this? We are giving an answer to this, and then we want to give this answer to as many partners as possible. So this is why to us, decentralization is important. Decentralization, interoperability, I guess that most of our listeners know we are part of the BGA from very, very, very long time, from the beginning of Alice actually, as a common way even before. Interoperability and true decentralization of the logic, are two of the three most important concerns of the blockchain gaming industry. The major blockchain projects are talking about interoperability. Tomorrow at the NFT Verse in NFT Paris, the event that we are organizing with many partners, Animoca, Sandbox, we talked about Alien Worlds, we have a lot of people coming. The topic of the panel is interoperability, and we are giving answer. We are trying to create something that can be used by the whole community. And every time I think about it, every time I talk about it with people, I really get goosebumps because I really like this stuff and I really think we can make a change.
Yeah, and to add to this from a games perspective is everyone who has worked in traditional games knows that there's a lot of secrecy and tons of NDAs, like non-disclosure agreements, often draconian contracts that forbid you to speak about certain stuff. You also usually work on logic or even assets that never see the light of day and then vanish, in some intellectual property, whatever contract rights. So all of this is, to me, as a game developer, really sad to see. And I think decentralization will be a step forward for our whole industry, to be honest, where, if you have logic that exists on chain, let's say the phishing system of Mine Alice, you can see how it works. That's one thing for players, but also for developers. They can extend it if they want to. Permissionless, though they don't have to ask us for permission. They can just extend it and rewrite it and implement it maybe in our own game through, governance functions in the future, things like that, or they extend their own game with this. So this is really the beauty of, I would say, the dream of decentralization, also from a game development perspective. And I think another point is that I think live games are here to stay, social live games. And I think as long as they're in the hands of one singular authority or an entity that is, and this entity could be a big company, it could be a passionate community or some indie devs, they can always shut it down, right? And that's what centralization means. So if for some reason, and the shutdown doesn't even need to be malicious or people don't make money, it could be people lack profitability or time commitment or inability to work on a project or whatever. There's countless reasons on why you want to shut down a project. But if it's decentralized, if no one can shut it down, then these are forever games, right? So that's really the beauty of having a decentralized future, because as long as blockchain will be around, the game will be around. And that's very enticing to me.
I love the idea of forever games. That's I think you just coined a nice term there. And if we look at what will be different for players, you have touched on some of the features, particularly trading. But is there anything else that is going to be different when it comes to this round of the game that players can look forward to?
Yeah, I think that the nice part is what we announced, the collaboration with Restless. And I think that we proved that when we announce things, we already have something cooked. And in fact, we do. There is a clear plan and demo. So now we will integrate this into my neighbor Alice. And I think that this will hopefully give a very nice push on the UGC of the people by allowing everybody to create their own NFTs, not just create NFTs based on a recipe. This to me is the most exciting part, is part of how I saw Alice since the first days, a place where every player can become a creator without using code. And this is a very long journey, but I think that with Restless and the logic that we have in my neighbor Alice, we will be able to create a very, very nice UGC experience for players that is accessible by everyone, not only by those with coding skills or that want to put time in complex editors.
Yeah, and two others that I'm happy to share is, one is the co-owning of plots. So we really want to deepen social features, as I said, and trading is one part of this. But another thing is we really want to, or what we're missing right now is that you can invite a friend to play with you the game, close together. So with this, one of the features that are coming up is that you can actually invite other people to your land, and then you can play together on one land and basically share the resources, share the buildings, but really have like a co-op experience. And another one that is one for the landscapers out there and the builders is that we're working on fungible placeables. And what this means, translated to gaming terms, is that it basically allows players to place much more placeables and assets on their land as they currently could. So everyone who has played Alpha Season 4 knows that it was quite a bit hard and long times and high resource costs to craft certain things. And it was deliberate on our end because we still needed to prove the tech in a sense, if that makes sense. And now that we've proven it, we can actually allow you to place much more decorations and furniture and walls and these kind of things on your land to make it even more beautiful and even more crazy.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, I was going to say players are about to get a lot more control, is what it sounds like, a lot more creativity in the game.
Power to the players.
Yep. And Riccardo, you mentioned Restless, and I'd love to just get a bit more information about what that means. What I know of it is that they're a user-generated content focused protocol, and they allow people to create custom items basically without having to code. It almost reminds me a little bit maybe of The Sims or something.
Perfect.
But would you share a little bit what this means for players? Will it be any item? Is it just clothing, or will they be able to, create their own plants and things? What does it mean for gamers? What will they be able to do?
Yeah, what we found with the interesting from Restless is a very easy UI to understand and to create items. And this is something that we were very interested because, as said, we want every player to be a creator. What we are working now is into plugging to this client side our sort of logic on RHEL, so that the item can on one side be minted, created, and then sold in My Neighbor Alice, and then give this to the community. What you will be able to create at the beginning, very honestly, there will be simple NFTs, maybe T-shirts, maybe trousers, a hat. But then we have this is what will be available at first. And then we will keep working on giving also the possibility to upload each specific assets. But this will definitely arrive in a second moment because this is stuff that needs to be built. At the moment, the thing that we want to focus is into having this to test if there is interest. Like we did with landscaping, we did something, people really like it. We want to do the same to create NFTs and see if people like it, and then adapt the product according to the wish of the market, what people like and what people don't. So this is what you will see. You will see UI that allows you to customize assets with the material, color, logos that you want. It automatically calculates a minimum price probably, and then you can sell it directly on My Neighbor Alice. And actually we are already in talk with other Chromia project in the ecosystem that also wants to use it. So I think that there is a lot of, again, by having this on the blockchain, fully on the blockchain, integration with other projects, it will just be a no-brainer if somebody wants. They just have to do it. It's there. All the information will be there. The asset will be on chain, on FileHub. The information about the asset will be on Chromia. The use of the NFTs will be done through Alice and so forth.
Yeah, and to add to this, I think a good way to maybe think about this is that we consider ourselves also creators in the M&A space. Like our development team is a creator for My Neighbor Alice, if that makes sense. Obviously a very important one, but as time develops, hopefully we have like a much larger creator community and creators that help us expand the game in permissionless ways. And as Riccardo said in the beginning, it will be simple assets, and I think T-shirts is a good way to grasp things, but as I alluded to beforehand, you could also think about this in game logic ways. For example, a phishing system. That's also something you could extend. And it also could be something like community projects, right? A larger utility items that exist within the game. It could be whole communities in itself. So the whole point here is that we want to have an autonomous world that allows you to permissionless extend it. And what it can be, sky's the limit, to be honest.
Amazing. What I love about what you guys are doing is it feels like it's not only moving the game like My Neighbor Alice forward, but it's kind of pushing the boundaries of what is possible in on-chain gaming.
Yes.
And I would hope setting a new standard as well that people can look at and say, this is what we want to do, this is what's possible.
Yes, 100%. I mean, Jade, we're from Cromaway. Cromaway is about giving power to the public. We're about giving power to the player. We are a heavy technological company. We have a lot of engineering analysis. We have a huge amount of engineering Cromaway for Chromia. We are really about the tech, and we are about redefining the Web 2 into Web 3. The idea of power to the public is born because we believe that the power should not be concentrated into the hand of those that creates the service, should not be concentrated in Facebook, should not in Meta, should not be concentrated into Google, and so forth. And that's really what we want to do. And in order to do this, you need a lot of tech because your paradigm shifts. Every time a paradigm shifts, the basis needs to be reconstructed. And so it would be silly to just change the surface of the end layer, the highest layer, if the foundation is broken. We need first to rebuild the foundation, and that's why we need to take every problem. We need to take a step back, understand the implication, really understand the problem, and propose a solution that looks forward and that is not based on what it was before. I
think that's a pretty good point to end our questions on. Thank you. That was quite inspiring. I feel inspired to go and do something now. Let's just get to some of the community questions that were coming in. Tom McCarthy asks, do you guys play the game outside of work? I would imagine that you do.
Yes.
But, so, do you guys play?
And this is, I've read this question too, and I really love this question because I think it's very important. And I would suggest everyone who's a creator, builder, in whatever space, do it games, tech, whatever, use your own products. It's super important. If you don't use your own products, you don't know who you're actually building for. And there's a term for this, which is actually called dog fooding. So to me, it's super important. And yeah, I can just encourage everyone to use their own product. And I've played My Neighbor Alice more than I would like to admit to. Obviously, there's phases where I play more and less. But for example, over Christmas, I played every day for, 6 hours. And played with friends. I invited friends. We tested all the social features. So I've been part of the community. Many people here in this chat I know also and have seen in-game and interacted with in-game. So yeah, super important to me. And I can only encourage everyone to do so.
Yeah, same. I mean, I think that the question people should ask when meeting projects is not, hey, did you try my game? Is, hey, did you try your game? And see how they react. Yeah, I mean, I like Steve, actually. I spent a lot of time during Christmas. It was really, really a lot. And I think the nice part is that in the previous season, honestly, after 1 week, the content was finished. So it was kind of, the content was finished. There was not much to do. You just have to keep farming and to feed the community quest. This season, it really flew the time in the game. It was really spending, I was like, okay, let me spend 10 minutes. And then I was like, okay, fuck, I spent a lot. And also something that I really liked is inviting people that we work with a bit indirectly, so people that collaborate with Alice from Chromium and stuff, and let them play in front of me. And people freaking out when they understand that really everything is on chain. Like, this is usually our engineers. Usually reaction of engineer is, okay, this is a nice game. And they're like, there is no server. And they're like, what? And they freak out. And that's very fun. And more creative people, they really, really like the world of Alice. And they notice details that I didn't notice. Like I just realized that we have a whole fika sort of breakfast corner next to the beach in the Lumelunda in the town, and so there are. It's very nice to see the game through the eyes of others. Also, I really like that, to just backsit and look at that.
Awesome. There's another question that you might have touched on this when you were talking about numbers. My brain gets a little bit scrambled with numbers. But are you able to share the number of unique players? I know you said that you sort of 400 a day is more like our standard, yes. But is there any more you can share?
Yes, we have 2,000 players that are making a transaction on chain, and 4,000 that in game, and they did all the first quest, and 4,000 that made at least one transaction. No, it's more than 4,000. 4,000 is the one that for free made one transaction via invitation, and on that we need to add the one that owned the plot. And on this, I don't know the number, but the total is 3,000. So 4,000 plus something about the 3,000. So we have a few thousand players that are making transactions on the chain. This is the number.
Which is pretty impressive when you consider that there's not that many people on chain in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, as we said, we have 1.8 million transactions in 2-3 months. There must be somebody doing it. Otherwise, this person doesn't have fingers at this point anymore.
Awesome. And the final question, the last question that I see here is, are you planning to release a mobile version of the game?
So that's a question. Yeah. I mean, technically we could. There's no plans for this, but the way the tech is set up, everyone can build a mobile version in the future for My Neighbor Alice. So maybe that's us, maybe that's someone else. We don't have plans yet, but it's technically possible, yeah.
Yeah, I can give a more strategic answer to that. While it would be cool, and as Steve says, it can just be done because everything is public. We can even externalize this if we wanted. There is a big of a risk because publishing an application today, it means publishing on App Store or on Google Store. This is valid for a few more years or 18 months. And then we don't know what happened. I mean, we see that Apple is actually actively trying to stop external App Store from being in the iOS environment, and this means that we would be at the mercy of two big players, which is Apple and Google, that already took several action in order to limit Web3 applications. Mainly because there is a concern about money laundering. There are a lot of projects in the crypto space that are not very honest, but also because this would put them out of getting the cut. Removing the middleman, the fact that creators can sell directly to creators, players sell directly to players, it means that there is not the 30% cut that usually Apple and Google take. So it would be very easy for them to not list us or stop us from being shown. And this is something that we already witnessed when we had a mobile application, Alice Wardrobe, because I don't know if everybody knows, but we did have an app on mobile, and it was always pushed back because we're using directly blockchain. And this, for us, justifying an investment into something that can be really shut down without any explanation is very risky. We had problem with Apple. We have issues. I wouldn't say problem. Like we have just to obey to their rules. And in this moment, by having a fully decentralized game, doesn't seem it's possible. And also, we had challenges with Steam in the past. So I think that there is a big market for independent solutions. But what we will do is wait for these independent solutions that are not made by Alice, but they will be made by other Web3 projects and collaborate with them. This is in the interest of safeguarding the funds that Alice has raised. Because if we put money into making a mobile application and then it gets shadowed or censored, those money are essentially lost. So strategically,
that's
it's very
really
complex.
interesting.
Yeah, and I think
so it adds a level of it adds a high level of centralization to the game that you've worked so hard to decentralize.
Yeah, I absolutely think so, and I think Riccardo really put it on the spot here. But I think what I want to highlight is that there's a big difference between building a mobile game and publishing and releasing it and making it successful, right? So of course we could build a mobile application for sure, but then if we need to adhere to centralized mechanics and app stores, that's not really the vision that we have for the game.
So it sounds like we need a decentralized app store as well. That's something that's missing.
I mean, it's very far away, but it's something that we are talking in. I cannot display which one, but in some working groups that Alice is part of. But there is a need. I think that everybody in the Web3 space recognizes that there is a need for Web3 application, and this Web3 application most likely at the moment will not happen on the app store that we use today. And this is a fact.
And there's just one more thing I want to say, because there were some spicy questions by Crypto Macchiato, and I just want to not necessarily go into detail about them, but I just want to say from my perspective as a builder, I don't worry too much about evaluation and prices and these kind of things. I'm really focused on building a good product, in this case a fully decentralized game, and I think once we have a successful product, everything else will follow from there. That's what I worry about most. So I worry about, again, harkening back to dog fooding, like we need to build a good product and everything else will come. That's what I truly believe in.
Yeah, maybe I can read the questions very fast. And the first is, when will the game reach its final version that everybody can play easily? I would say people can already play easily, but definitely we need the Chromia mainnet to have a full live experience. So as soon as Chromia is going to be released, and it's going to be released this year, we will get ready for being there, and then it will be the same game, so it will be as complex as now, which to me is very easy, and then it will also be on LiveNet. At the moment, we're using I don't know if everybody knows this AppNet, where essentially it's a network that we made for Alice on Chromia, where essentially we are able to use real tokens in the expectations that all the infrastructure of Chromia gets released, and then we will be able to migrate those real tokens into that infrastructure, the live one. And the other one is the bull season is ahead of us. Will you be able to journey to new heights? How valuable are we? And on that, I really think the same with Steve. I mean, I'm not surprised. We are builders, and to me, how valuable is given by the tech that we have and how we're able to communicate. I think that the tech that we are building is very complex. People see a game, and what we have to do is arrive to a stage, and I think we are there, where the technology is fairly superior. And then we need to start showing the numbers that we are putting in. And the reality is that we will start really putting numbers once we are live on mainnet. So this year, we will really start putting more effort into communicate our stuff better and more clear. We have a lot of integration that we are planning with Chromia on other sort of dashboards in order to show the amount of transaction we have, to show the number of players we have, to show actually there is a real game, a real technology and stuff. So, I mean, beer with us, there are a lot of tools. Something that we need to make clear is that by using Chromia, we are using a technology that, in our opinion, is superior, but doesn't have a lot of tooling that can be automatically plugged with. So everything, even displaying the stats on DeepRadar, requires a specific integration. We cannot use a normal Ethereum integration. So that's why it takes a bit longer. But this is what happens when you make a new technology. You have to rebuild the foundation, like we said. It's the same if we are making electric cars, and we believe electric cars are the future, hypothetically, then we need to build charging stations. And at the moment, there are no charging stations, so everything is a bit more clumsy. But the fact that the state of today is not as clear is not a reason not to invest in electric cars, for example, because there is a clear plan on arriving there, and the value proposition, in our opinion, is unique, distinct, and superior than other games that maybe today work like plug and play, but they don't have a strong value added in terms of decentralization.
Okay. I mean, I think we've reached 1 hour now, and I think that's everything we wanted to talk through. So just again, from my side, huge thanks to everyone who joined. And another reminder that we're in NFT Paris right now, and we're hosting a few side events. So if you want us to meet us, we're here in Paris, say hi, and yeah, join our events.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And I actually hope that this Twitter space gave a bit more answer. It will be also nice to know if it's something that you would like to have more often, or how do you prefer to have your question answered, because to us it's very important. And yes, see you in Paris if you are. Just write to us, and it will be great to meet with the community. And thank you. Play Manevralis. That's cool.
I was going to say thank you to everybody who joined us. Thank you to you guys for such an awesome overview. I always get so excited when you guys talk about My Neighbor Alice. It's not just a game, it's a whole new approach to things. Anyone who's listening, I would assume if they want to get involved, they can follow both My Neighbor Alice and Chromia on Twitter, and they can join the Discords, Telegrams, all of those kinds of things. And to stay tuned for more updates. And of course, if they're in Paris, they should go and say hi to you guys.
Yeah, and thank you for hosting this, and to all the team in Manevralis that made this happen.
My pleasure.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you to the audience as well, for everyone who joined and who submitted questions.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
See you, everyone.
Ciao.
Bye, everybody.